After winning the premiership in 23, the Pies went down to 9th in 24, showcasing not only the evenness of the competition, but the fact that you need to be at your best to compete in this league. Now, the Pies were in a pretty bad situation when you compare both seasons, given their offense and defense both took a significant hit. I want to focus on their fatal flaw, which was their defense, for a very critical reason. So let's go through it. My name is Daz, I talk footy, hence this is Daz Talks Footy. Click the subscribe button to join the family, click the like button if you enjoy the video, and other people get to watch it as well. And you can watch my last video, which is Can Brisbane Win a Flag Without Joe Danaher, right after you finish this one. So stick around, enjoy. So why am I only talking about Collingwood's defense instead of their offense? Well, very simply because their backline played, their forward line didn't really. So check this out. Mason Cox, Jamie Elliott, Jordan De Goey, Harvey Harrison and Brody Myercheck all played less than 17 games last season, whereas the main quartet of the focus of the video, which is Darcy Moore, Isaac Quaynor, Braden Maynard, and Billy Frampton, all played over 18 games in 24. So given the fact that those 5 guys will hopefully play more footy next year, let's focus on the ones that we still think are going to have that availability, because the Pies' defense last year was poor, giving up, compared to 23, 2 extra goals, just about. It was about 11.2 points more per game. So what went wrong in that regard? Well, in my opinion, plenty of things, but luckily, they did upgrade in that position. John Noble went off to the Gold Coast and they replaced him with Dan Houston, which is already a good start for their rebounding numbers. Dan Houston did this for Port Adelaide last year and was a pretty handy inclusion in Daz's Supercoach team, just quietly, but that's not the focus of the video. You can't argue with what Houston's been able to do, I should say. Not only is he going to be able to rebound effectively, but his beautiful kicking is going to help open up the ground more, and given that in 23, even when Collingwood were winning so many close games, their ability to transition the ball from their D50 to forward 50 was a feature of their game, whether they needed to score quickly or just gain territory. They were awful at that last year. Houston is going to help them in that regard in a massive way. They were the epitome of mid-tier in rebound 50s, but they were a bottom 6 side in rebound 50 rate. So if you were getting the ball inside your forward 50, Collingwood were a bottom 6 side at getting it back out again. So not only were they conceding a lot of inside 50s last year, they were not getting it out at a rate that suggests they were going to be able to punish you on turnover. More about that in a second. Now, whilst, yes, we've already spoken about Dan Houston in that regard, I am firmly putting it on Braden Maynard and Isaac Quaynor here that you are going to need to rebound the ball to your fullest potential, because you are also playing a semi-lockdown role. Maynard does this better than Quaynor in my opinion, but as one-on-one defenders, being able to shut down your opponent and then in turn be able to rebound the ball is going to be key. You think of what Brandon Starcevich did comparing the 23 and 24 grand finals, which I know is just 2 games, but he had 0 impact on the offensive prowess for Brisbane in that grand final, because Bobby Hill took him to absolute pieces in that 2023 grand final, and then in 2024 he was able to bounce back and really give some drive and some oomph off that half back line for the Lions. You look at someone like Adelaide, who are hoping that Max Michelani might be able to take that step next season. You think of Carlton, someone like Lockie Cowan will hopefully be able to do that, with a bunch of more examples across the board. Jordan Ridley for the Bombers, James Sicily, and even Jarman Impey for Hawthorn, who are able to do it really well. And North Melbourne are hoping to get the same out of a youngster like Josh Goda, for example. Lockie Ash at the Giants is good at doing this. Will Ruben Jinby be able to do this for the Eagles? Fingers crossed that he will be able to do that. And Jordan Clark took it from 0 to 100 last year. That's what they're going to try and get back to, because Isaac Quaynor is one of my favourite players in the competition, who was horrific last year, if we're being honest. But the Pies are definitely going to need to open up their scoring channels more. They were a bottom 4 team last year from scoring from their defensive half. That's simply awful. You don't deserve to be a contender, let alone in the finals with those kind of numbers, hence why they weren't. And 11th in the competition from scoring from turnover. So even if you were giving the ball back to the Pies, they weren't exactly punishing you with it, to be completely honest. And when they won this year, they won by an average of 3.5 goals. Nothing wrong with that in the slightest. But what didn't happen in 2024 that was happening in 2023 is that there was no real fear, especially in the back end of the year, that the Pies were going to come and chase you down effectively. Yes, they still got some close wins at the back end of the year, but at no real point from effectively round 8, 9, 10 onwards were you ever thinking to yourself, yeah, they're just going to come back and win? Except the North game because, well, one, they were playing North, and two, the narrative was just too good for them not to come back in. So yes, Collingwood fans, I can 100% see you going, the North Melbourne example is the only one that's required because it was over 50 points and, get a dog up here. I completely understand where you're coming from that regard. But sure, outside of that game, there were no real examples of the fear that neutrals and opposition fans had when watching the Pies attempting to make a comeback. It just wasn't there. And given how tight the Pies were able to play with the opposition scoreboard, they conceded the third least amount of points in the home and away season in 23. And again, they were equal mid-tier with Gold Coast in conceding points in the home and away season. So not only were they already not giving you an offensive punch because of all their injuries last year, they weren't really giving you a defensive punch either. So clubs were just able to run over the top of them enough times in order for them to not make the 8, which is a reigning premier is bonkers. Hawthorn 2008 to 2009, Adelaide 1998 into 1999. These things happen. The Bulldogs weren't great in 2017 either. So, whilst I'm not suggesting this is the first time this has ever happened, and yes, I know they had 2 draws, they swing both their way twice, they make the finals, I understand that. And if you're happy with that reasoning, good luck to you. I wouldn't be, and if I'm a Collingwood fan, I wouldn't be. Now, they made proactive decisions, no Joe Richards, which is fine. Brandon Ryan left Hawthorn after 2 games. We don't know what Joey's going to be for Port. I've got higher expectations of Joe, but we don't know what he is yet. And John Noble for Dan Houston, outside of trade assets, is a win every single day of the week, and there is no one that can convince me otherwise. But if we can just take a step back from the defense at the moment as a back 6 or even a back 8, if you want to consider your wingers as two-way players, let's put a little bit of onus on this midfield. Now, whilst yes, Tom Mitchell didn't play a whole lot last year, you've still got the likes of Dacos, Crisp, DeGoey, who I know was in that injured fivesome before. There's probably a better name for it than that, but it escapes me at this point in time. And then you've got Pendlebury, who could go back to halfback this year, who knows, but there are enough midfielders there that they should be conceding better numbers than this. They were 4th most in conceding ground ball and conceded the 5th most stoppage clearances. They were not giving their back 6 enough opportunity at all last season to present a positive, not only defensive game plan, but the ability to transition and create offensive power and grunt through the MCG, the SCG, wherever the hell they were playing last year. It just wasn't really happening for them. So that midfield has just got to get better, but let's now address this back 6 to finish the video. Darcy Moore, Jeremy Howe, and Billy Frampton, who did not put up great numbers in the player ratings for key defenders last year. Darcy Moore was at the back end of the top 10, as you can see, but 25th for Jeremy Howe and 57th for Billy Frampton. And whatever you thought about Billy's performance in the 2023 grand final for the Pies, in 2024, he was, fine. He was there, he played. And I don't want that to sound insensitive. Billy Frampton is 10,000 times the player that I will ever be. This is not a comparative piece. But in order for this football club to get better, he's going to need to get better along with their other 2 players. Now, I'm also not suggesting that AFL player ratings is the only point system that someone needs. Sam Taylor, Stephen May, Jake Lever all rated worse than Darcy Moore this year. Does that mean that all of them are worse defenders than Darcy Moore is? No, of course not. I'm not suggesting that is the case at all. Numbers can tell part of the story. They are not the story. And although someone like Braden Maynard was reasonably okay, about the same as last year, the 2 guys that definitely weren't were Darcy Moore and Isaac Quainer. Let's start with Isaac, who when compared to last year went at 3.5% worse disposal efficiency, more than 3 less disposals, effective disposals as well. His intercepts were down, marks were down, rebounds were down, his clangers went up, and his meters gained dropped significantly. Now, the intercepts there and the meters gained are the ones that stand out to me the most. No matter how good you are as a back shoulder player, Isaac is there as a two-way defender, the ability to stop your opponent and the ability to rebound. He wasn't able to do the latter last year, so it effectively didn't really matter how good he was doing as a back shoulder defender, and how he was doing as a back shoulder defender was fine. It didn't stand out in the slightest. And then you've got the skipper with his numbers there. Now, whatever you think of Darcy Moore, whether his ceiling is the ultra two-way intercepting back shoulder defender or not, the thing is that when playing against taller opponents, Darcy does not stand out as an ultra powerful, brilliant key defender. There are so many times throughout 23 and 24 he was featuring on Fox Footy's Reverse Coleman, giving up goals to the opposition key forwards. And whilst, yes, Billy Frampton and Jeremy Howe should be helping with that, Darcy is now so far into his career that Collingwood fans have got the right to be wondering why these tall forwards aren't being stopped at a rate that will make Collingwood a contender again. Not only is he your skipper, he is your leader. And whilst Brisbane and GWS have the ability to be able to stick their second best tall defender on the best opposition forward in order to come up with a game plan that best utilises a Harris Andrews or a Sam Taylor, Frampton and Jeremy Howe are just not good enough to allow Darcy to do that. So Darcy is going to have to stand next to your best tall forward. And if that is a matchup that opposition can exploit, then Collingwood are going to be stuck in the same area, because I don't care who you are. If you are trying to win a flag, you need to stop the opposition from scoring. Yes, scoring the most points is great, but conceding them is a problem. Defense is effort, scoring is execution. Your scoring is going to be more inconsistent. I don't care who you are. The Geelong team of 2007 started 2-3 after round 5. You are going to have up and down moments, right? But it's your ability to consistently bring that defensive effort that is going to hold firm over the course of the season. And in 25, if Collingwood do not fix this, it's just going to be another year. Now, can they turn it around? Of course they can. Will I have them in my top 8? Absolutely I will. The inclusion of Dan Houston fills me with joy, but this isn't going to be an overnight fix. But the Pies definitely are a contender if they have health and they get back to proper defensive execution. So what do you think, guys? Comment below. Let me know what you think. Click the like button if you like it. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. Share this with a Collingwood fan and let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Now, you can also see my KO call-up video analysing a goal that Jarman Impey kicked against the Crows. If you could find that for me, the link is in the description and it will be the pinned comment as well. If you could leave a positive comment there for when KO go through those applications, because the opportunity to be a part of that team for the first 8 rounds of 25, to say that would be a dream come true would be the understatement of the century, and anything that you guys can do would be a massive help. So thank you for watching. Thank you for going to the YouTube short if you haven't already, or if you have already, I should say, and if you haven't already, if you can do so, I'll love you forever. I appreciate the support, guys, as we continue churning on here through December. You can find the latest video around this area somewhere, and you have yourself a fantastic day and an even better week. See ya.